what is black? What actually is it? Because I know you've written quite extensively about it. There's been articles, but in your own words, how would you describe it in practical terms?
It's a very, very simple idea. It's a simple idea that I'm surprised at how surprised people are at the fact that it exists or that I'm doing it, because it's essentially a no-brainer. It's a peer-assisted well-being group, or groups, because it creates a safe, supportive, and therapeutic environment for now male or female identifying university students. So that group meets every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, depending on how things go, and essentially we come together and we discuss things. Now there are many elements involved in it, which makes it somewhat interesting. It's because looking at all the range of things that I've studied in psychology, I take elements from here, I take elements from there, and I put it in. Like there's psychoeducation, there's signposting, there is exploring therapies, like exploring various therapies. I know that when you throw the word therapy out, it can spook people, but I have quite a subtle way of doing it. I essentially expose people to different therapies that are out there, and you never know what works for the one person and what might not work for the other person. And I feel like it's a good way to sort of combat this stigma behind actually accessing therapy, which I think is really good. So this is so in a long-winded kind of way, that's what Black Men Talk is.
Okay. And it's interesting because I know there's so many things that we can kind of talk about within that subject alone. You know, notions of masculinity and getting help and support and seek help in behaviour, as well as looking at, you know, the wider issues around mental health and well-being generally, which is a hot topic for everyone at the moment, and in particular for those from, you know, from the Black community as well. So I guess, what is the issue? I guess there must be an issue or a problem that's been identified in order to kind of create, you know, this forum and this platform. What are the issues that you've kind of identified and this solution that you've come across or that you've created to address those needs? Outside
of university, I became very much aware of the state of mental health in the Black community. The statistics are dire, and looking in my university and interacting with the Black students within my university, I could see that the university is literally just a microcosm of what's happening in the wider community. And then once I realized that, I started looking at the different elements and potentially thinking about what would I need and because obviously being a Black man myself, I'm pretty sure that if something is set up for me, it could help. So I guess if I were to bring it slightly back, I would say that in my undergraduate, I had quite a difficult time. As in, I transferred from Birkbeck University here in London straight into my second year. So essentially, I didn't get that time to, like, you know, the first year is the year to chill and to get used to things. I didn't have that. Like, I hit the ground running, rolling, crawling, like got back up straight. I had to go right into it, and obviously, it was quite difficult moving to a brand new city. Being, you know, it was very difficult. I had some issues with like student finance, and then it was very difficult. So all of that just made it such a difficult year. And then I remember accessing student services and looking for like counseling services and stuff. And I remember interacting with a counselor that just didn't get it. And I think that made me run from the service faster than...
Wow.
They just didn't get it. And then they would like give me some advice. Yeah, but what if you don't think that? It was essentially CBT without looking at telling me to change the way I think when the issues, and I'm not really going in, I'm not going to go into that because it just feels like I'm just like, let me think. Should I go into it? It's like overlooking the issues that are actually happening, which were very racism, just like discrimination, a few things. So things like that within the university, because it'll happen in any setting like that. It will happen. So it's completely putting that aside and not looking at that, but then just focusing on change the way you think, whereas my reality is still happening. So I changed the way I think.
Was your counselor, therapist at the time, were they white? Were they not? Were they?
She was a white lady.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a white lady, okay. which is the norm. Which is the norm, but unfortunately is the norm. So so obviously I accessed that. I had like, I don't even remember if I had 2 sessions, 1 session. I think I had a session and a half. Yeah.
So there was a real experience of that disconnect between you and the therapist, and then obviously there was a greater appreciation for how others may feel in similar circumstances. So I can see.
So then when I saw that, I was like, okay. I went away and I managed to get my 2-1. I was really managed to get my 2-1. I don't know how I did it, but it happened. And then when I started my master's, I was like, I don't want anyone to go through this. So why don't I create something that I would have loved to have when I was going through this? So then that's exactly where it came from. And I started to look at like the humanistic perspective, which essentially states that we are all equipped with what we need to self-soothe and all of that. And I was like, we could do this for ourselves, because we're social characters. We've evolved socially. So there has to be some sort of benefit or some sort of cathartic release that could be achieved through just socializing within a therapeutic setting. So group therapy.
Sure.
So then I thought to myself, okay, let's do this. So I created Black Men Talk. Started off with Black Men Talk because obviously I was a black man, and I wanted to make sure that the spaces were safe. Right. So I couldn't as a man facilitate those sessions, because that wouldn't necessarily be a safe space anymore.